Tonight on Skyline, America looks extremely powerful from the outside. But inside the country, fear is spreading. Layoffs are exploding, immigration crackdowns are growing, Indians are getting arrested, mobbed, monitored, and suddenly pushed into the center of America's political storm. One day you are living the American dream, the next day, one email, one police case, one visa problem, one layoff notice, it can change everything. And tonight, we bring you 9 explosive stories showing how life for Indians in America and Indians connected to America is changing faster than ever before. I'm Driti Atri and this is Skyline. In the first segment, imagine waking up in America, checking your phone and seeing one email that destroys everything. Your role has been eliminated. Well, for almost all the Americans, layoffs are painful, right? But for Indians on H-1B visas, a layoff is not just about a job loss. It's a countdown. The moment employment ends, the visa clock, it starts ticking. 60 days, that's it. 60 days to find another employer, 60 days to transfer the visa, and 60 days to somehow save your years of hard work, your dream loans, family plans, and immigration status. And tonight, thousands of Indian tech workers are living inside the pressure cooker. America's tech industry is bleeding jobs again. Companies are reconstructing, AI is replacing the team, budgets are shrinking, and suddenly, even highly skilled Indian engineers are discovering something terrifying here. Loyalty means nothing during mass layoff. Well, many Indians moved to America believing that tech jobs meant long-term stability for them. Big salary, green card path, American future, but now families are panicking over rent payment. Parents are worried about children studying in American school. In fact, people are contacting immigration lawyers before contacting relatives. Can you think about how brutal this is? Some laid off workers, they are now desperately filing for B2 visitor visa just to stay legally inside America while searching for job. Others are packing their entire lives into suitcases, preparing to leave after spending probably years building career over there. And wait, here's the scariest part. The tech slowdown is making new jobs harder to find exactly when thousands of laid off workers are competing against each other. Well, this is no longer just an employment crisis. This is becoming an immigration survival crisis for Indians in America. And while thousands of Indians are fighting to stay legally inside America, another case is now fueling America's immigration anger even further. One accident, one arrest, and suddenly America's immigration debate exploded again. Ladies and gentlemen, a case involving an Indian national in California is now becoming political ammunition in one of America's most heated battles: immigration enforcement. According to reports, the accused allegedly struck an underage in a hit-and-run incident before fleeing the whole scene. Authorities later arrested him, but the controversy, it truly exploded after federal officials accused Californian authorities of releasing him before ICE stepped in. And that's when the political war began. American conservatives are now using the case to attack California's sanctuary policy here. Well, federal officials are accusing local authorities of protecting the undocumented migrants. Immigrant activists, they are accusing politicians of using fear for elections. And once again, immigrants are trapped in the middle. The language that is coming from Washington, it has been extremely aggressive. Officials publicly described the accused as a criminal, illegal alien. Well, that phrase, it alone spreads rapidly across conservative media and social media platforms, right? And wait, here's where it matters so much. Every high-profile crime involving an immigrant, how immediately it becomes part of a national political battle in America. Election season is approaching, ladies and gentlemen. Immigration is becoming emotional again, and Indians living in the US, they are watching nervously because they know public anger often does not stop to separate legal immigrants from undocumented immigrants. Well, for many Indian families, the fear is growing. Will rising immigration anger eventually affect everybody with visa, foreign accent, or immigrant background? Because in politically charged environments, nuisance disappears very, very fast. And while immigration debate it intensifies in America, another disturbing case involving an Indian origin man is now making headlines in California. This story has shocked communities across Canada. A 26-year-old Indian origin man from Mississauga has been charged with voyeurism after allegedly recording women inside a fitting room at a clothing store in Oakville. Well, according to the police, a woman noticed somebody secretly using a phone while she was changing. Well, that moment triggered an investigation, and investigators later connected the suspect to another similar incident back in 2024. Now, pause for a moment. Cases like these do not remain isolated anymore. Social media spreads them globally within hours. And unfortunately, every time an Indian origin individual is accused in such an bizarre incident, well, online stereotyping, it explodes instantly. Thousands of comments appear, memes spreads, entire communities get judged because of one individual's action. And this creates another silent pressure on Indians who are living abroad. The pressure of representation. Many Indian immigrants, they already feel that they must constantly prove themselves professionally and socially in foreign country. One viral negative story, it suddenly damages perception for everybody. And tonight, many Indians in Canada and America, they are once again asking a frustrating question. Why do the mistakes of one person end up becoming a judgment against an entire community? Because let's be honest, in social media age, perception spreads faster than facts. And while one Indian origin man is facing criminal charges abroad, another group of Indians is suddenly making America look at India very differently. This time with military respect. Ladies and gentlemen, for years America dominated global military exercises. But now, something remarkable has happened. The Indian Army has officially participated in one of America's most prestigious social forces event, SOF Week 2026 in Tampa, Florida. This is not just symbolic participation. Indian Special Forces directly showcased counter-terror operations, in fact, jungle warfare expertise, unconventional warfare skills, and high-altitude combat capabilities in front of military leaders from over 70 countries. Can you think about that transformation? There was once a time, if you remember, when India was seen mainly as a regional military player. But today, Indian commandos are demonstrating capabilities alongside elite American forces on global platform. The event is called Battle in the Bay, became a huge moment for India-US defense relationship. Here, American officials openly discussed stronger cooperation. Military experts, they highlighted India's operational experience in difficult terrain, and India's global military image received a major boost here. But this story is bigger than military drill. It reflects how America increasingly sees India as strategically important against rising global challenges involving China, involving Indo-Pacific tension. And for Indians living abroad, moments like this, well, it creates a different kind of pride. Because while some headlines focus on visa issue and immigration problem, another headlines show India becoming more powerful globally than ever before. But behind America's powerful corporate image, another silent crisis is now exploding inside big tech itself. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody talks about workers losing their jobs these days, but almost nobody talks about the people who survive layoff. And according to one former big tech engineer with 25 years of experience, surviving layoff can sometimes feel even worse. Well, the engineer described how entire teams disappeared overnight during mass layoff. Seniors vanished, experienced workers vanished, years of institutional knowledge vanished with one calendar invite and severance package. And suddenly the remaining employees, they were expected to somehow carry the entire workload. Imagine the situation for a moment. A massive corporate project, billions of dollars involved, outdated system nobody fully understands anymore because the experts, they were laid off. Executives demanding impossible deadline and workers trying to survive inside total chaos. Well, the engineer described working 12 hours a day, 6 a.m. meetings, late night calls with India team, 3-hour daily commute, into New York City. Well, eventually, he said that the stress became physically unbearable for him. Burnout, nausea, mental exhaustion. And here's the frightening part. This is becoming normal in big tech. Yes, it's normal in big tech. AI pressure is increasing. Managers want fewer workers doing more work. Employees are terrified to complain because they fear becoming the next layoff. So, even people who still have jobs, they no longer feel safe. And tonight, many Indians working in American tech companies are quietly asking themselves, is the dream job still worth the emotional cost anymore or not? But while big tech workers struggle inside corporate America, another report now claims ordinary Americans themselves may actually be losing jobs because of Mr. Trump's immigration crackdown. That's right, Americans are losing jobs because of Trump, not Indians this time. For years, US President Mr. Donald Trump and his allies, they accused that mass deportation, it would actually help the American workers by creating more jobs and higher wages. But now, a major study is challenging that narrative completely. According to new research, aggressive deportation policy may actually be hurting native-born Americans too. Why? Because entire industries in America heavily depend on immigrant labor. Construction, agriculture, manufacturing, warehousing, and when immigrant, they disappear suddenly, business struggle to function. Simple. The study claims that for every immigrant worker arrested in some construction sector, multiple American workers also lost jobs because projects slowed down or become economically impossible. Can you think about how shocking that is? Instead of increasing wages dramatically for Americans, some companies reportedly reduced construction activity entirely because there were not enough workers left to finish the job effectively. Now, America faces another huge problem, and that is housing shortage. The country already struggles with very expensive housing, right? Now, labor shortage could make construction even slower and more expensive. Experts say this could eventually push home price higher. And suddenly, America finds itself trapped in a contradiction. Well, politicians, they want stricter immigration enforcement, but industries still heavily depend on immigrant workers. And this particular debate is kind of becoming increasingly emotional as elections approach. Because immigration in America is no longer just about border. It is now directly connected to inflation, housing price, wages, labor shortage, and the future of the American economy itself. And yes, while inflation conversation is being discussed, let's talk about H-1B. For decades, the H-1B visa lottery represented hope for thousands of Indians who are dreaming of building a future in America, right? Students spent massive amount of money on the US education, believing that once they secured an H-1B visa, their life would finally become stable. But tonight, that dream is changing rapidly. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service has now revealed something very, very important about fiscal year 2027 H-1B season. America is no longer selecting applicants the same way it used to. The system itself is changing, and the biggest winner now appears to be the people with higher salaries and advanced US degree. According to the US, nearly 71.5% of selected applicants this year held a US master's degree or maybe higher. In fact, last year that number was only 57%. Think about that jump. It sends a very clear message about where America is heading. And yes, at the very same time, only 17.7% of selected applications came from the lowest wage category. In simple words, lower paid applicants are finding it much harder to get selected now. And perhaps the most shocking number is this. Total H-1B registration collapsed by nearly 38.5%. Yes, registrations dropped from over 343,000 to 211,000. And that's a massive fall. USCIS says that this happened because the government introduced new rules designed to stop what it calls low-wage abuse of the H-1B system. America has now replaced the old random lottery system with a wage-based weighted selection system. Now earlier selection was mostly luck-based, right? But today, salary matters for more. Higher paying jobs are receiving stronger preference during selections. So that means companies offering lower wages may struggle to get workers selected under the new program. And there's another huge change. The government also increased the H-1B registration fee from just $10 to $215 per applicant. And that single move dramatically reduced bulk registration and forced companies to become more selective before the filing applications. The US says that the goal is simple: prioritize higher skilled workers while protecting American jobs and wages. But tonight, many Indian students and tech workers, they are quietly asking difficult questions. What happens to average applicants now? What happens to small companies? What happens to students spending huge amount on the American degrees hoping for H-1B opportunity later on? Because the message from Washington, that is becoming clear. America still wants foreign talent. They do, but increasingly only the highest paid, highest skilled, and most competitive talent. And for the Indians dreaming about the US, the H-1B game, it may now be tougher than ever before. Well, now let's talk about the NRIs, specifically the Indians who are living in the United States. As certainty grows abroad, many NRIs are once again looking towards India. Not emotionally but strategically, because after layoffs, visa fear, immigration uncertainty, and rising living costs overseas, many Indians abroad are considering one important question: should we build our future back home or not? And tonight, many NRIs, they are searching for answers about buying land and property in India. Well, according to FEMA and RBI rules, NRIs, they can freely purchase residential and commercial properties in India. Flats, apartments, office spaces, commercial building, residential plot. There is no limit on how much properties an NRI can buy, but there are also important restrictions. NRIs cannot directly purchase agricultural land, plantation property, or farmhouses until and unless inherited legally or received through family transfer. And because India's property market, it is booming in many cities, overseas Indians increasingly view India's real estate not only emotional security but also a financial backup. Can you think about the psychology here? For years, many Indians believed that America was the final destination. Now some are quietly preparing backup plan in India too, specifically after seeing how quickly layoffs and visa problem can disrupt lives abroad. And this shift, it says something very powerful about the changing mindset of global Indian today. And finally, tonight, America may now be preparing for another massive transformation, ladies and gentlemen, this time at airports. Well, America's airport security system could soon look very, very different. Reports suggest that TSA is considering major changes that may reduce the number of federal airport security agents while increasing the role of private contractors. And this debate, it is becoming very, very explosive inside America. Well, the TSA currently employs around 50,000 agents, but proposals now suggest thousands of positions could disappear under new privatization plan. Here, supporters argue that private screening system may reduce wait time, improve efficiency, and keep the airports functioning very smoothly during government shutdown. But critics warn that this could weaken security standards created after the trauma of a major attack in the US. And this is not just about airport lines anymore. This is about America increasingly turning towards automation, outsourcing, biometrics, and AI-driven system across multiple sectors. Airports may become the next testing ground here. Facial recognition, remote screening center, automated checkpoints. Well, the future of travel itself may change dramatically. But workers' union, they are very angry. They say privatizing airport security could actually create dangerous gap in international safety. And once again, America faces the same larger question appearing across almost every story. How much change a country can really absorb at once before people, the ordinary people, they begin feeling unstable? Because whether it is layoff, immigration, AI, airport security, or global politics here, one thing is becoming clear tonight. America is changing very fast, and millions of Indians connected to America are trying to adapt in real time. I am Driti Atri, this is Skyline, and trust me, the biggest change, it may still be coming.